So we wanted to show you guys ketogenic friendly hamburgers, or how we do hamburgers. So one of the things that, some of everybody's typical favorite foods are like pizza, cheat foods, whatever you want to call them, pizza, hamburgers, but we loved hamburgers. Before we went keto, a good bacon cheeseburger was always, super delicious. So we started missing on the keto diet. We started missing, things like hamburgers, sandwiches, things that involve some kind of bread. And we weren't, massive bread eaters to begin with, but every so often we'd want a hamburger. And this is how we kind of remedied that, even on the keto diet. There's a couple aspects to it. Most of it's relatively obvious, but we just want to show you how we do it. But the key to this is a low-carb tortilla. I think there's a couple companies that are now coming out with keto-friendly, really low-carb, higher-fat breads. I've seen a few of those on Facebook and a couple other social media outlets, but I don't know that much about them yet, and they're outrageously expensive at this point. So we've actually solved, relatively speaking, the sandwich and burger problem by using low-carb tortillas. This is one of the brands that we use. There's a couple different brands out there, but this La Tortilla Factory, this is a specific low-carb tortilla. If you take a look at the ingredients, Pam, if you can zoom in on that or just come in close, you'll see that one tortilla has 19 grams of total carbs, but 13 grams of that is dietary fiber. So when you take out the fiber from the total carbs, you get your effective carbs. So one tortilla has only got 6 grams. Now, if you're trying to keep your carbs under 25, 30, 40 grams per day, understand that 6 grams of carbs out of 30 total for a day, effective carbs, that's a fifth of your carbs for the day. So you do have to watch it. Today is a great example for us to have these in the evening, though, because for the most part, it's been a pretty low food day. I wouldn't call it fasting. We've had our high-fat coffee. We've snacked on nuts and stuff like that. Bacon. We've cooked bacon today, so of course we're snacking on that. But it was a relatively low food day, and next to no trace carbs. Maybe just a couple here and there. So we've got the room at the end of the day to do this. So I want to show you the meat that, I'm going to turn this back on so we can kind of heat it up. But instead of making meat patties, what you want to do is just do a ground meat. Now, when you make your meat patties for a hamburger, normally, you're going to put in, probably an egg or two and a bunch of seasonings to make your hamburger patty, really, really flavorful. So obviously we're not making patties. I didn't use an egg, but what I did do is I went ahead and flavored it with most of the stuff that I would normally flavor it with. This is one of our favorites. I like the McCormick spice blends that they have, and I put a heavy dose of this in there. A little bit of, you say that however you want. I just say W sauce. So we had some W sauce in there. And this meat, you can use whatever meat you want, but this is chili meat from deer that we recently killed. So this is fresh game meat, recently processed, and no added fat. And of course, we want fats on the keto diet. But instead of doing a ground meat with the processor where they add fats that don't come from that animal, I typically get I get the meat processed into chili meat. It's not any bigger really than ground meat. It's still pretty much the same grinding size, but they don't add extra fat into the mix from an animal that I don't know where it came from. So this is 100% the deer that we killed. Pretty heavily spiced or flavored. So after that, you pretty much make it however you would normally make your hamburger. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the one that I would make if it was a hamburger, and that's going to be, for me, just a little bit of mayonnaise. We use an olive oil-ish mayo. So that's going to go on first. On my bacon cheeseburger, I'm a big fan of guacamole. So I'm going to get a pretty heavy amount of guacamole in there. I don't have any tomatoes tonight, but I'm not a real big tomato guy. Probably put the bacon. I like bacon cheeseburger, so I'm going to put 2 pieces of bacon down here on the bottom. And then everything else is waiting on the meat. So that's warmed up. You can measure out this if you're really counting your protein grams. If you want to measure out your, if you're used to eating a quarter-pound hamburger, a quarter pound is going to be 4 ounces. If you got a food scale, you can knock that out. Me, I'm just going to pack on a fair amount. That's probably about 5 ounces or something. Get cheese right on top of that, so it's nice and melty. So we've got the bacon on there, we've got the cheese on there, we got fresh meat from an animal that we hunted, and then I like kind of a steak or a barbecue sauce flavor on there. A1 is a great choice. Watch the carbs on anything that you're going to add in there. And so I'm just going to just a light drizzle on here. You don't need a ton. This is just going to add a little bit of flavor. And then finally, a little bit of lettuce. So you can see I'm packing this in here pretty tight. It's going to be hard to fold over, but you'll see that's going to be my hamburger soft taco. Now for your sides, if you're on keto, you can't have fries, but you can have chips with your burger. What's a common side to your burger is chips. So one of the things that we've discovered recently is relatively fancy pork rinds. In the grocery stores, more often than not, just your typical hot pork rinds or plain pork rinds or maybe a barbecue pork rinds is all that's been there. Grocery stores are starting to carry, I don't know what brand this is exactly, but we've tried a couple different flavors from this brand and they're phenomenal.
It's Southern Recipe, small batch.
Southern Recipe, small batch. I don't even think we have our favorite flavor right here. This one's pretty good, and then there's a Korean kimchi barbecue that's also really good. If you take a look at the ingredients here, if you know anything about pork rinds, you'll know that it's low carb. I think there's less than 1 gram of carb in here. It's high fat, and it's even got some protein there to add to your meal. So instead of chips or fries, with some flavored pork rinds and maybe a pickle. I know I like a pickle. So you've got your hamburger taco, you've got your pork rinds for the side, and you've got your soft taco, bacon cheeseburger, hamburger thing. So that's how we do keto hamburgers in the house.